Welcome. Hi, friends. Thank you all so much for coming. Oh my gosh, I'm completely overwhelmed. This is lovely. Welcome to Domesticating a Feral Cat Stack. My name is Lauren Benezra. I'm a resident architect at DBT Labs, and this is my cat, Pewter Benezra Nagel. He is currently unemployed. So how did we get here? Can I actually have all of my cat people raise their hands, please? That's it? Come on. Should be the whole room. Okay, well, even if you're not a cat person, this will all be still applicable to the rescue of your choice. But just be aware that cats are the far superior animal, just so you know. Cats have gotten me to this point, so they need their proper intro. I promise I will talk about data in just a minute. Please don't leave. Honestly, I'm this lady. This is me most mornings feeding my cats, and even as I made these slides, there was a cat from a window perch judging me, there was a cat on my lap, there was a cat waiting for dinner. So how did we get to this point? I spend my free time volunteering for a cat rescue called Feral Change. They exist in the Bay Area of California. And I found Feral Change after trying to figure out a way that I can convince my husband to add a few more cats to our then two-cat household. If you are married or partnered with a person who loves cats, you know what this is like. You can't say no. So Feral Change actually, amongst all of the other services that it provides, it has a garden cat program. So they will take feral cats from at-risk communities and they'll establish them in your backyard so that they have like a really safe place to live and you can feed them and enjoy them from afar because they don't want to be your friend. This is my garden cat, Sprout. He eventually wanted to kind of be my friend for snacks. And so we added a couple cats to our backyard, and I became honestly obsessed with these cats that did not want to be friends with me. If you're involved in animal rescue, is anyone in here involved in animal rescue? Yeah, heck yeah, awesome, that's so cool. So you know that there's a moment in which you realize that you can do more. There's always more to do. They are always lacking in volunteers. If you are interested ever in volunteering for a cat rescue or any rescue, highly recommend. It is incredibly rewarding. So I started trapping cats to get them fixed and returned to their outdoor homes. I began fostering cats. At some point, I had 11 cats in my house. My husband was very unhappy about it. And I became the behavior coordinator of Feral Change. So I was helping other fosters socialize unsocial cats and started becoming the foster coordinator, moving foster cats between homes. And it was really then that I got access to our Google Sheets, I'm going to say cat's nest, which is why I'm standing here in front of you talking at a data conference about cats. So when you are a data engineer or an analytics engineer or anything, you see a problem and you go, I know there's a better way to do this. And that's what I did. So I know what you're thinking. How could there possibly be really that much data in a cat rescue? Well, we have several segments of our organization. We have a trap, neuter, return segment of the organization. We have volunteers that go out and they trap cats. They get them fixed. We get them vaccinated. We resolve all their health issues. We return them to their outdoor homes. That means we also have a ton of cats that end up in our foster system. So we have cats that go to foster homes. We have a network of foster homes. We have volunteers. We have drivers. We also take in at-risk cats from shelters and rescues. Cats also get adopted. So we have adoption applications and all kinds of things. So we have tons and tons of data that just compiles over years and years. We probably have about 20 to 30 foster homes at any given time, about 100 to 150 cats in foster at any given time, and then maybe 20 to 30 volunteers year round. So that's a lot of data. We are currently tracking this data like this. These Google Sheets, if you have worked in Google Sheets, they work for a really long time, right? They're fantastic. They get you started in the data world. But we've grown a ton. And we've helped so many cats that we really needed a better way to start tracking our cat data. We've definitely had more than one cat step on a keyboard and start deleting data. So that also is not super great. We really needed a real data warehouse. And with a real warehouse comes the rest of the stack, right? So it's important to understand at what point do you need to consider moving from Google Sheets to something else. If you are a 3-person rescue, or maybe you're a startup with 5 people, maybe Google Sheets is the answer for you right now. But at some point, it's going to start to get clunky, right? If you're a frequenter of Google Sheets and you have several like this linked across the board, you've got formulas, you've got thousands of rows of data, everything starts to get kind of slow. And if you are like a normal human being, you're going to start locking down sheets so that people don't actually edit them. And then they're going to get frustrated and they're going to create their own copy of the sheet and they're going to do what they want with it, right? And that's how you end up like this little guy. You keep adding columns, you keep copying and pasting duplicate data, and then all of a sudden, you don't know what the source of truth is and you can't do any of your calculations. So if you're at this point, it is now time to... It's now time to start thinking about something a little bit bigger. And hopefully after today, you can take these slides, you can plan out your stack, and you won't make a miscalculation like this guy. We'll just watch him one more time. Then go do it. Yeah, okay. All right. So you can imagine that for a small organization, whether it's a cat rescue or not, you need a scrappy stack. You need something that has all of these same components. It has to be modern, but simple and affordable. It has to be easy to use for both data and non-data folks to consume. We want room to scale, but we also want to avoid an over-engineered stack. Because honestly, this is my volunteer gig. I am not about to bootstrap something, build it from scratch, and then spend all of my time maintaining a custom pipeline. We're gonna need some somewhat turnkey solutions. So when you're small and you're scrappy, you can still have shiny and modern. It doesn't mean you have to have something that's built from the ground up. So the components of a modern data stack. Well, the first thing that we need for our modern data stack is to capture the data. Maybe if you're a cat rescue, that literally means capturing a cat and putting all of his data into your data sheet. You need the cat description, the location, any health issues. All of that stuff needs to be documented. I trapped this guy a few years ago. He was very displeased with me, and that's actually the end of a hiss, in case you can't tell. And then you need to take that captured data and you need to store it somewhere. This is my former foster kitten, Rowan. She's sitting in a really nice chewy box with a heating pad. But you need to take this data and actually store it somewhere safer than a Google Sheet, okay? In cat terms, we need foster homes. The next step is to take that raw, untamed data and to transform it into a pile of sweet purring house cats ready for cuddling and reporting. That's exactly what I did with my foster spicy meatball Batman, who was honestly the fiercest, scariest little guy I've ever met in my entire life. But with some time and effort, he turned into a very sweet, cuddly house cat. And we have to do the same thing with our data. The last piece is reporting. And in cat terms, that's adoption day, right? They are ready, they are transformed, they're ready to go into their new home and be loved by someone else. And this is my my kitten Beazle that I adopted from Feral Change. In between these pieces, we need some extra loading tools that can extract and load all of this data. In the cat world, that's all of the cat people helping move cats between homes and from the street and all that stuff. And so here's me on the streets of Reykjavik, Iceland, helping some little cat. All right, so the good and bad news about this is that we have so many options. It is scary. It's very, very daunting to go, I'm gonna build a new stack, and then go, oh no, there's so many options. But it means that we have the opportunity to adjust the scrappiness lever based on our use case and our budget. Wanting to build something cheap is relative to your budget constraints on both software and developer time. This stack, in particular, is being built for a cat rescue that I volunteer for in my extra time. So my extra time is actually smaller than the budget that they have for software. So I'm not gonna fully bootstrap this system. For capture, we have two options because we want to use human-entered data, the messiest kind of data. We're gonna go human-entered into a form or straight into a data table without giving them access to our warehouse. So we're gonna go Airtable or Google Sheets. Now we could stick with Google Sheets and kind of clean everything up, But again, after about 1,000 rows, it gets slow. And Airtable, if you haven't used Airtable, it's pretty slick. It has a lot of flexibility and capacity for scale. Their forms also can be really easy to use because they allow for conditional logic. To load the capture data into your warehouse, you're going to need some sort of loader that works with your capture software. So because we're not going to use Google Sheets, I'm not going to use Google Sheets directly into my warehouse. We're going to use either Airbyte or Fivetran. But don't forget to look at the pricing options, right? If I'm on the Airtable Teams plan, Fivetran actually won't let me use their loader because they actually only let you use it with the enterprise plan. Because this is all for this scrappy stack, we don't want to scale too fast, too quickly. We're just going to use Airbyte. Then we're going to move on to a warehouse. Now, if you hear scrappy, people might lean towards Redshift, right? But I actually know that BigQuery has a free tier, and that free tier is going to offer a pretty generous amount of storage. And I'm way more familiar with BigQuery than I am with Redshift. So I'm going to go BigQuery here. And then you all know that our transform tool is going to be DBT. Yes, okay, thank you so much. But is it going to be DBT Core or DBT Cloud? So actually, there is a 1-seat free developer tier in DBT Cloud, and I do not want to maintain an orchestrator, so I'm going to use DBT Cloud. Woo! Once we push this transform data back into our warehouse, we're going to start to report it. So that's these last two pieces. Depending on where you're going to end up reporting this, you might need a reverse ETL tool. So in this case, I'm going to report it back to Airtable. Why am I doing this? Because I have non-data consumers that need to be familiar with these tools. They will be entering data in the same place that they're going to look at their pretty dashboard. That's lovely. I don't have to teach them more than one software tool. And again, these are volunteers. They don't want to spend all their time learning a new software just because Lauren says so. That's silly. So we're going to go all of these things. You can see our nice stack. Okay. Here is our scrappy stack, and you might be thinking, well, how scrappy? I mean, this is pretty fancy for, something called scrappy. Well, actually, everything is pretty cheap or free, except for Airtable. So that's really the most expensive piece of this. It's about $20 per seat per month for the Teams plan, but the rest of this is cheap or free. It's awesome. Okay, we're gonna start getting into the actual details here. So we're starting with a bunch of disparate Google Sheets, right? We saw this image, it's scary, it's terrifying. This isn't even all of them, honestly. This is just like a smattering. None of these sheets are currently connected with keys. The important information that one person needs in another sheet is literally copied and pasted into another sheet. It's very upsetting. So we could fix this again, and it would still become kind of slow and messy. So we're going to build in Airtable a simpler version where your capture is separated from your reporting. Now, why is that important? Well, the capture is where you are entering data. If you need all of your later reported data in that same sheet, it's going to get really messy. And that's how you end up calculating the same things in multiple ways and all of this stuff. So we're going to create an ERD. I know this is small. I'm going to zoom in a second. Don't worry. We're going to simplify the columns of this sheet and create keys that relate to each other. So each piece of source data is going to have a key that it then can join later on in our downstream transformation layer. I told you we'd zoom in. This is Bran, my former foster. He was actually left in a feral colony and got hit by a car. That's what happens to cats. But he had a broken pelvis and we helped him heal, and he was just the chattiest, funniest little guy in the world. So this is kind of just a little zoom in of this where you can see that we've highlighted our cat ID. That's going to be, in our case, when they first come into our system, a cat name plus a year, because we've kept those unique. And then after they get microchipped, that becomes their unique key. So there's a lot here that we can do, and we could make sure that each of these tables actually has a key that relates to each other. So that way, when we get to DBT, we can do all the fun SQL. The next thing you can do after you build kind of an ERD is build somewhat of a DAG. This is more of a guideline to what you will build towards. Guaranteed that once you start, it's not going to look exactly like this, but because you'll start discovering all of this other things that you need to add and tweak and all of that. But this is going to give you somewhat of a guideline to kind of build towards. So if we zoom in here, you can see I put in a bunch of sources. I just kind of made up what I think I'm going to look for. And this is really an important place to start discussing with your stakeholders. What reports and dashboards do you want to see on a regular basis? How often do they need to be updated? And this leads us to the next part, which is data capture. Okay. So data capture is really the absolute hardest part of this project. We are all data engineers, right, or analytics engineers. We know that we can figure out the back end of things, but the front end, the data capture, has to work for humans. It has to be efficient, it has to be easy to use, and it has to have an intuitive workflow. It cannot be cumbersome in any way, or they will not use it. The best thing about Airtable, and also this is not sponsored, by the way, I just love Airtable, is that it's super customizable. And even though we have a backend that will be joining and transforming data through DBT, we can organize tables and schemas in Airtable and link them together. But it's protected data, so people can't go in and start changing that stuff. And when the table needs information from another table, we can just bring it in without pesky formulas. So we also have this incredibly helpful ability to store photos within rows, which is really helpful when you have hundreds of cats in your system and you're trying to figure out which one is named Big Dog or Spider, right? It's important that all of this is really easy for your stakeholders, so that's important. So we have built our data capture workflow, and now it's going to need adjustment. Again, you as the volunteer data engineer won't be the one entering all of the data. So you need to check with those stakeholders, make sure that their workflow is making their lives easier, faster, better. It will be a change in mindset, but it should at least involve fewer clicks. That's the key. Fewer clicks is always better. Okay, we're going to build the rest of the whole dang stack. So we built the first part, fantastic. Now we're going to build these other pieces. The rest of it is honestly simple. The hardest part is data capture. We don't deal with that super often as back-end people. It requires so much communication. But for the rest of the stack, we chose really well. We chose turnkey solutions, so we can specifically just set this up and we can walk through the basics. Okay, next we're gonna set up BigQuery. This is represented by my foster, Bun Bun. She was actually a lot more work than setting up BigQuery. Took a lot more time. So all we have to do is navigate to cloud.google.com and set up a free BigQuery account. The best part is that we get 10 gigabytes of storage and up to 1 terabyte of queries for free each month. That's just a basic BigQuery free account. For this small rescue, that's way more than enough. And as we scale, the storage is going to just become pretty cheap. Okay, these are some pretty basic steps for your BigQuery setup. You can create a new project, and then you just have to figure out which data sets or schemas you'll actually need. Then you'll need at some point a raw data set that you can pipe all of your raw data to via Airbyte, and then have a place for development. In this case, I just did dbt develop because I'm the only developer here. I don't need my name on there. And I can test our dbt code on that raw data set. Last but not least, you do want a place for snapshots so that you can capture history. Again, for some of these raw tables, we have cats that come in and out of our system. And so it's really important that when a cat comes in with a different name, I can actually go in and go, oh, I know this cat because of the microchip, and I can go in and find all of the history on this cat. Okay. Now we can set up Airbyte, which is our loader. You can go locally hosted, and honestly, I did this at first because I was like trying to be super scrappy, save all the pennies. But I started with this, and then in the background of my computer, I was running this Airbyte instance, and it was just terrible because I didn't want to deal with it. So I set up Cloud just to see how much it would actually be, and it was shockingly cheap. I mean, it was just cents. So you can set up this for very little, depending on how big your data is, and then you can specify the way that you connection to Airtable, and then a destination table or connection to BigQuery. Okay. Have been mathematically proven to be liquid. Does anyone know this? Okay, there is a Nobel Prize winning physicist, okay, named Marc Antoine Fardin. And Fardin uses, in this paper called On the Rheology of Cats, Fardin uses fluid mechanics to prove that cats are in fact liquid, which means that they can transform into any shape, right? Just like data. And that's our DBT component, right? We can transform our data into anything we want. So now that we've captured and loaded our data into BigQuery, we can start tackling that transformation layer. When you're a volunteer at a nonprofit or a data engineer for a teeny tiny kitten-sized company, you probably only need that one developer seat, and DBT is awesome, right? We can just do that in cloud. So go ahead and go in there, set up a free account, and then you're ready to start doing all the SQL your heart desires. You'll need to connect it to your warehouse and your Git repo, initialize your project, and then we can do this, DAG. So again, you can start building this with very little work after you've figured out your data capture. Here we're just aiming for general Kimball style, so dim and fact tables, and then we're building out all of the reports so that I can use Census to just pipe from BigQuery back into Airtable and build some nice dashboards. And the next part is going to be Census, right, and Airtable. So Census is very easy to set up. It's literally a few clicks. Love few clicks. You just need to figure out your source and then also your destination. You need to figure out you need to build your destination table in Airtable, and then that's it. We can start building some reports. So what I've done here is build a few dashboards for all of our volunteers to see how many spays and neuters we've done, how many cats were postpartum, how many cats were male, female, etc. How many fosters did we have last year? All of those things. And what's awesome is that with all of this data, we are able to put this in our grants to ask for funding. Cat rescues, animal rescues, any sort of nonprofits need data in order to actually say, hey, we're doing such a good job, please give us money. That's really, really important. And so if we can use our cool data skills and actually help out these small organizations with pretty little work, we're gonna be helping them do so much more and be able to help so many more cats and animals and all the other things. Okay, you have special ninja cat data skills. I really want to emphasize that this is not that much work, okay? This is important for you to remember that these skills that you have, that you've cultivated over many years, are secret special skills, and you can apply them honestly anywhere. Small organizations, rescues, whatever it is, use your knowledge. You can literally save lives with everything you know today. So, that's it for me. Thank you all so, so much. Big shout out to Deanna, who is over there somewhere, yeah. And Angelica, our former DBT Labs apprentices who helped with all of this. And then of course, Feral Change has literally changed my entire life. So thank you so much. If you are able to donate to any rescue of your choice, please do so. They desperately need help. If you're able to foster and you have questions about cats, please talk to me. Thank you all so much.